All right, so you're looking for a deep dive into the Tao Te Ching, and you're in the right place. We've got excerpts from a translation, and we've got some insightful commentary, ready to unlock some ancient wisdom.
Absolutely. It's remarkable how relevant these teachings remain even thousands of years later.
Exactly. So our mission today is to help you grasp the essence of Taoism, how it sees the world, leadership, and living well. And we won't be treating you like a novice. We know you can handle the good stuff.
Right. Let's start with some context. Imagine ancient China, a time of intense intellectual and political ferment. Confucianism, Mohism, legalism, all vying for influence, each offering their own solutions to societal
Like
problems.
Taoism took a different path, right? It always struck me as almost countercultural.
Precisely. Instead of rigid structures and rules, Taoism embraces mysticism and a quietism. It almost seems paradoxical. It's about aligning with nature, a way of being that predates written language.
And the introduction to the text uses such evocative imagery to describe this way. Water, darkness, a valley, the female, a babe. It's almost like they're trying to point to something that's beyond words.
Exactly. Think of these images as kennings for the ineffable, as the introduction puts it. Kennings are metaphorical descriptions, and the ineffable is something that can't be expressed directly. So they're using poetic language to hint at the nature of the Tao, which is ultimately beyond definition.
Okay, that makes sense. So before we get too deep into the Tao, can you break down what Tao and Ta actually mean? They seem to be the foundation of everything.
You're absolutely right. Tao is often translated as the way, but it's so much more than a path or direction. Think of it as the source of all things, the underlying principle of reality, the force that drives the universe.
Okay, so the cosmic operating system, so to speak. And Ta, how does that fit in?
Te is the power or virtue that arises when you're aligned with the Tao. It's what you get by following the way. It's the manifestation of the Tao in your life.
Interesting. So by aligning with the Tao, we cultivate Tao almost like tapping into a universal energy source.
That's a great way to put it. And the Tao Te Ching is full of guidance on how to do just that. It offers insights into key themes that run throughout the text.
Okay, there are a few themes that really jumped out at me, like non-action, or wu wei as it's called in the text, achieving without striving. It seems almost paradoxical.
Wu Wei. It's one of the most powerful and perhaps most misunderstood concepts in Taoism. It's not about doing nothing, but about acting effortlessly, in harmony with the natural flow of the Tao, like excerpts 4, 10, 48, and 64 illustrate.
It's like swimming with the current instead of fighting against it. You achieve more with less effort.
A perfect analogy. And this concept of yielding, of allowing things to unfold naturally leads us to another key theme, emptiness and stillness.
Right. Excerpts 4, 6, and 16 really stood out to me, talking about the power of the void, the source of creation. It's almost like the Tao Te Ching is saying that true strength lies in letting go.
Exactly. By quieting the mind, embracing emptiness, you create space for new possibilities to emerge. It's the understanding that stillness isn't passive, but a wellspring of potential.
And that ties into another theme that resonated with me, balance and harmony. Embracing opposites, finding the middle way, recognizing the interconnectedness of all things. It's all over the excerpts, especially 2, 5, and 28.
Yes, it's the understanding that everything exists in dynamic balance. True harmony comes from embracing the interplay of yin and yang, light and dark, masculine and feminine.
It seems like a lot of these themes point towards a way of being that's simple, humble, the value of the uncarved block, the strength of yielding, leading from behind. Excerpts 8, 20, and 39 really drive that home.
Absolutely. The Tao Te Ching reminds us that true strength often lies in simplicity, being receptive rather than forceful, leading by example instead of decree.
And speaking of countercultural ideas, there's one that I find particularly fascinating, the power of the feminine.
Yes. This is where the Tao Te Ching truly diverges from many philosophies of its time. It reveres the valley spirit, the mysterious female, as the source of creation.
So it's suggesting that feminine qualities, yielding, nurturing, intuition, are essential for understanding and aligning with the Tao. Excerpt 6, 28, and 61 really highlight this.
Precisely. It's a perspective that can feel quite radical even today.
Okay, so we've got these powerful, maybe even counterintuitive themes, but how does this all translate into living well in the world? Does the Tao Te Ching offer any practical advice?
It most certainly does. It offers guidance for both those in positions of power and individuals navigating their own paths. For leaders, it emphasizes non-interference, allowing people to govern themselves. It recognizes that trying to control everything ultimately leads to chaos. Excerpts 3 and 17 really bring this home.
Less is more,
Mm-hmm.
especially when it comes to governing.
That's the Taoist approach. And for individuals, the focus is on knowing when enough is enough, avoiding extremes, and cultivating inner peace. Excerpts 57 and 80 offer some really practical insights into how to apply these principles in daily life.
It's amazing how these ideas from thousands of years ago are still so relevant to the challenges we face today.
It is remarkable, isn't it? The Tao Te Ching seems to tap into something fundamental about the human experience, regardless of time or culture.
Take Wu Wei, for example. Acting without striding feels like the perfect antidote to a world that's constantly pushing us to do more, be more, achieve more.
It's a call to step off the treadmill, to reconnect with the more natural rhythm of being, and it ties in beautifully with the theme of emptiness and stillness. In our age of information overload and constant stimulation, finding peace and clarity in the void is almost a revolutionary act.
Like hitting the reset button on your mind.
Exactly, and it's not just about personal well-being. This idea of emptiness also has profound implications for how we approach leadership and problem solving.
I'm intrigued. How so?
Think about it. When you approach a challenge with a mind that's already cluttered with assumptions and preconceived notions, you limit your ability to see new possibilities.
You get stuck in the same old patterns.
Precisely. But when you cultivate emptiness, you create space for fresh perspectives and innovative solutions to emerge. You become more adaptable, more responsive to the ever-changing circumstances around us.
So you're saying that stepping back, clearing your mind can actually be more effective than charging ahead with a predetermined plan.
That's the Taoist approach. It's counterintuitive, but often more effective in the long run.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these seemingly abstract Taoist principles can have very practical applications. What about the idea of balance and harmony? How does that play out in our daily lives?
Well, the Tao Te Ching reminds us that everything is interconnected. Every action has a consequence. It's about finding the sweet spot between extremes, recognizing that too much of anything can be detrimental.
So it's not just moderation, it's understanding the dynamic interplay of opposites.
Exactly. Light and dark, strong and weak, active and passive. These aren't separate forces, but two sides of the same coin.
And true harmony comes from embracing both.
Precisely. Think of the yin and yang symbol. There's darkness in the light and light in the darkness. It's a beautiful reminder that life isn't about eliminating one or the other, but about finding the balance point.
That makes a lot of sense. And it seems to tie in nicely with the idea of embracing simplicity and humility.
You're right. The Tao Te Ching encourages us to strip away the unnecessary, to let go of ego and pretense. It's about finding contentment in the ordinary, in the uncarved block.
Which paradoxically seems to lead to greater strength and resilience.
Absolutely. When you're not attached to a particular outcome or a fixed sense of self, you're better equipped to navigate the ups and downs of life.
This is incredibly insightful. I'm starting to see how the Tao Te Ching offers a roadmap for a more fulfilling, meaningful life.
And remember, it's not about rigid rules or doctrines. It's about cultivating a way of being that's fluid, adaptable, and in harmony with the Tao.
It's like learning to dance with the universe.
I love that analogy. It perfectly captures the essence of Taoism. And speaking of dancing with the universe, there's one theme we haven't touched upon yet, one that's particularly unique to the Tao Te Ching, the power of the feminine.
Yes. This is something I've always found fascinating about Taoism. It's a philosophy that truly honors and celebrates the feminine principle.
Precisely. And in a world that often prioritizes masculine values like assertiveness, competition, and control, the Tao Te Ching offers a refreshing counterpoint. It reminds us that true strength lies in yielding, nurturing, and intuition.
It's like it's saying that those feminine qualities are essential for understanding and aligning with the Tao.
Exactly. Think of the image of the valley. It's receptive, it nourishes, it allows things to flow naturally. It's a beautiful metaphor for the power of the feminine.
And this reverence for the feminine isn't just symbolic. It also has practical implications for how we live our lives right.
Absolutely. For instance, Wu Wei, acting without striving, is often associated with the feminine principle. It's about allowing things to unfold naturally, trusting in the process rather than forcing a specific outcome.
Surrendering to the flow of life rather than trying to control every aspect of it.
Precisely. And this idea of surrender isn't about weakness or passivity. It's about recognizing that there's wisdom and power in allowing things to be as they are.
It seems like the Tao Te Ching is inviting us to tap into a different kind of power, one that's often overlooked or undervalued in our culture.
You've hit the nail on the head. And what's truly remarkable is that these teachings are just as relevant today as they were centuries ago. In fact, I'd argue that they're even more vital in our fast-paced, hypermasculine world.
I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
The Tao Te Ching offers a path to balance wisdom and inner peace qualities that are sorely needed in our times.
And it does so in a way that's both profound and incredibly practical. It doesn't just tell us what to do, it guides us toward a way of being that's in harmony with ourselves, with each other, and with the universe itself.
It's a gift that keeps on giving. Each time you return to the Tao Te Ching, you're likely to discover new layers of meaning and wisdom.
Exactly. It's a bottomless well of insight. And that brings us to the final piece of our deep dive today, living well in the world. Does the Tao Te Ching offer any guidance on how to navigate the complexities of human existence?
I'm all ears. We've been discussing these big concepts, but how does this translate into practical advice for daily living?
Well, the Tao Te Ching doesn't lay down a set of rules. It's not a prescriptive text in that sense. But it does offer a wealth of wisdom that can guide us toward a more balanced and fulfilling life.
Can you give us some examples?
Of course. Let's start with the advice the Tao Te Ching offers for those in positions of leadership. It emphasizes non-interference, allowing things to unfold naturally, rather than trying to control every outcome.
So a more hands-off approach.
Exactly. It recognizes that trying to force things often creates more problems than it solves. But when you step back and allow things to unfold organically, you create space for creative solutions to emerge.
Trusting in the natural order of things.
Precisely. And this applies not only to leadership, but to all aspects of life. When we let go of our need to control, we open ourselves up to new possibilities. We become more adaptable, more resilient, more in tune with the flow of the Tao.
Okay, that makes sense. But what about advice for individuals? What does the Tao Te Ching say about living a good life?
Well, it emphasizes knowing when enough is enough, avoiding extremes, and cultivating inner peace. It reminds us that true happiness doesn't come from possessions or achievements, but from aligning ourselves with the Tao.
Finding contentment in simplicity.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that true wealth lies not in material possessions, but in the richness of our inner lives.
Which is a beautiful message, but a challenging one to embody in a world that constantly tells us what we should have, what we should achieve, who we should be.
It is challenging, but the Tao Te Ching offers tools and insights to help us navigate those challenges. It encourages us to cultivate awareness, to practice mindfulness, to tune into our inner compass.
So it's about finding our own way, our own path in alignment with the Tao.
Precisely. That path will be unique to each individual. There's no one-size-fits-all approach to living a good life. But the Tao Te Ching provides us with a framework, a set of principles that can guide us on our journey.
And those principles are about balance, harmony, simplicity, and non-striving.
Exactly. And what's fascinating is that these principles aren't just theoretical concepts. They're woven into the very fabric of the Tao Te Ching itself.
What do you mean?
Think about the structure of the text. It's comprised of 81 short enigmatic chapters full of paradox and poetic imagery. It's a text that invites contemplation and multiple interpretations. It doesn't offer easy answers, but rather nudges us toward a deeper understanding of the Tao.
It's like a mirror reflecting back to us our own assumptions and limiting beliefs.
That's a great way to put it. And by grappling with those paradoxes, by engaging with the text on multiple levels, we begin to cultivate the very qualities the Tao Te Ching espouses. Humility, open-mindedness, a willingness to let go of our preconceived notions.
So the form of the Tao Te Ching itself embodies the principles of Taoism.
Exactly. That's what makes it such a timeless and endlessly fascinating text.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground exploring the key themes and principles of the Tao Te Ching. But here's the million-dollar question. How do we put this wisdom into practice? How do we bridge the gap between theory and lived experience?
That's the challenge, isn't it? And I think the beauty of the Tao Te Ching is that it doesn't offer a prescriptive answer. It's not a how-to manual. Instead, it invites us on a journey of self-discovery, a process of continual learning and unlearning.
Cultivating a way of being rather than following a set of rules.
Exactly. And that cultivation happens through mindful engagement with the world, with ourselves, and with the text itself.
Could you give us some specific examples?
Of course. One way is to simply make the Tao Te Ching part of your daily routine. Read a chapter each day, meditate on its meaning, see how its insights resonate with your experiences.
Integrating these teachings into our daily lives rather than just treating them as abstract concepts.
Precisely. And as you do that, you'll notice how the principles of Taoism begin to subtly shift your perspective, your actions, your interactions with the world.
Aligning ourselves with the flow of the Tao.
Exactly. And in doing so, we naturally cultivate more teya, more virtue and power in our lives.
So what you're saying is that by immersing ourselves in these teachings, we actually start to embody them, almost like osmosis.
Yes, exactly. It's not about intellectual understanding alone. It's about allowing these principles to permeate our being, to become a lived experience.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
That
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what final thought would you leave our listener with? What's one thing you'd encourage them to consider as they continue to explore the Tao Te Ching on their own?
I'd say approach the text with an open mind and a playful curiosity. Don't try to force understanding, but allow the wisdom of the Tao Te Ching to seep into your life like a gentle rain. Let
Hmm.
it nourish your spirit, challenge your assumptions, and guide you on your own unique path.
That's beautiful imagery. And I think it speaks to the heart of what we've been exploring today. It's not about memorizing doctrines or following rigid rules, but about cultivating a way of being that's in harmony with the Tao. And that's a journey that unfolds in its own time and its own way.
Exactly. And remember, the journey itself is the destination. So embrace the flow, enjoy the ride, and trust that the Tao will guide you.
This has been an incredible exploration of the Tao Te Ching. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring. Remember, the Tao Te Ching is like a flowing river, always changing, yet always the same. Each time you return to it, you're likely to discover new depths of meaning and wisdom. So keep exploring, keep reflecting, and allow the Tao to guide you on your journey.